Actually, great to see almost full house today again, like our last webinar. So I'd like to thank each one of you for making time to participate in today's webinar. My name is Manish Paheti, and I'll be your moderator today. I head the delivery team for testing automation here at SOICE, one of the leading enterprise IT solutions provider. And I'm really excited to be hosting this session today. So the topic for today is DevOps with Worksoft Automation Platform. Worksoft products are most widely used in packaged application stack like SAP, S4HANA, Salesforce, Workday, etc., where scaled automation with distributed teams is necessary for success. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Jeevan Koneti. Most of you would be already knowing him. Jeevan is currently working as Senior Solution Architect at Worksoft. He holds a computer science and engineering bachelor's degree and has about 15 years of experience in architecting and delivering enterprise automation solutions. Today, he's going to share with us his experience with DevOps in the enterprise app space and how Worksoft Automation Platform accelerates DevOps journey in an organization. Before I hand over the mic to Jeevan, I have just a few housekeeping items. So the first one is like today's webinar we are recording, and it will be made available to you in 2-3 days time. We will send the link to you all by email. Next, during the presentation, during this session, if you have any question for our speaker, please feel free to send it through the chat section, which is available at the bottom of your player. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session. And in case if we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we'll be sure to follow up afterwards. So the last is that we would like to encourage you all to share the recorded webinar with your friends and colleagues once it is made available to you. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Jeevan. Jeevan, it is over to you now.
All right. Thank you, Manish. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for patience. And I really appreciate each one of you for taking your time to join this webinar. And I would also like to request to take a minute after the webinar just to share your feedback with Manish. And if there are any more topics that you're really interested in, that could be beneficial to you or your team and to the whole Worksoft community force, please feel free to share the feedback. And also we choose 11 a.m. in the morning so that it's, we are all fresh and we have fresh thoughts, and DevOps is quite important, right? So that's why we had to choose this morning slot. And in case if you have any concerns and if you'd like to see the webinars being delivered in a different time zone, please do share with us too, right? With that, so let's get into the most widely used term in the technology space today, right, which is DevOps, right? So today what we're going to see is understand DevOps in the enterprise application space, and how Worksoft Automation Platform could be leveraged to accelerate the whole journey over there. And let us first understand the challenge in application packaged space, right? The challenge with today's technology stack is the release cycles across the application stack in any organization, right? If you look at these standard packaged applications like SAP, Salesforce, Workday, SuccessFactors, Ariba, Oracle CPQ, could be any big packaged applications being delivered by the well-known vendors, have these release points in a year that are many, right? For example, if you see SuccessFactors have 4 major releases in a year, C4HANA 5, Concur and Ariba 12 in a year. Whether your organization chooses a cloud SuccessFactors or on-premise SuccessFactors, these releases had to go through the pipeline, and Salesforce has 3+ scheduled updates. And what is the challenge, right? So for an automation team, when your application stack is going through so many changes in a year, and business expects the automation team to keep up with the pace with all these releases, and still work with this intense release cycle and ensure these new releases are not breaking any of the existing functionality. That's a big challenge, right? So traditionally, the automation testing is expected only when your application is stable enough. But nowadays, stability is no, is no more, right? Its stability is not a destination, right? The change is constant. Change is continuously happening into the application stack. And manual testing is completely out of the scope, because with it, you could not ensure or you could not be able to keep up the pace with the change cycle, right? So let us look at the Worksoft platform as a complete platform. It has three major components. One, on discovery and documentation, using tools available in that space called Analyze and Capture, helps you to quickly capture the updated process or the completely new business process and create your documentation automatically. Helps you save quite a lot of time, and helps you create assets that could be passed on from the SMEs to the next team in the line of deployment, which is an automation team or delivery team, to take those assets and quickly build the automation testing or reusable components in the implementation and testing phase with a code-free and no programming Worksoft certified solution. And how do we operationalize the automation assets once they are ready, right? So how do we have them executed automatically based on certain time triggers, based on certain event triggers, right? That's what we do with operations and improvement with our execution orchestrator and our multi-integrated API endpoints. And let's first understand, so what are the different terms that we keep hearing in a modern application delivery, right? So agile, we keep hearing agile, right? So agile basically focuses more on processes to accelerate the delivery, and you could use Scrum, you could use Kanban approach, and you could use SAFe to identify the most viable user stories and have them delivered in a 4-week sprint or 6-week sprint. And right, so and the major highlight in the agile is change management. And if you look at continuous integration and continuous delivery, it focuses more on software defined lifecycle and integrating with different tools that comes as part of the delivery and deployment, right? Integrating, and it emphasizes more on automation rather than having people involved, or rather than having people are weighting your processes on people's decisions, right? It emphasizes more on automation. You basically integrate several tools in as part of CI/CD. Then what is DevOps? DevOps is basically a culture, right? So it's basically a kind of integrating your development teams and operations teams, right? Highlighting more on roles and emphasizing responsiveness, how quickly we can respond back, whether the build could be deployed into production or could it's better to hold off on the deployment based on the testing or based on a different validations that are performed, right? So the most of the topic today, we're going to be highlighting a little bit of CI/CD with DevOps culture, and I'm going to be covering some of the best practices that some of our customers are following to increase their efficiency as part of the automation. And if you look at an assembly line in a factory which produces consumer goods from raw materials in a fast, automated, and reproducible manner, right? Which is a manufacturing plant. And similarly, a software delivery pipeline produces releases from source code in a fast, automated, and reproducible manner. The overall design for how this is done is called continuous delivery in the software delivery process. The process that kicks off the assembly line is referred to as continuous integration. And the process that ensures the quality is called continuous testing. And the process that makes the end product available to the end users is called continuous deployment. So you continuously deploying, you're continuously making your upgraded product available to your consumers, right? And the overall efficiency experts that basically makes everything run smoothly and simply for everyone are known as DevOps practitioners, right? That's what we're going to see. Now, Worksoft for Agile sprints. This is how most of our customers, especially in who have been following Agile and Safe methodologies, are able to use Worksoft platform to keep up with the sprint teams and business users teams and Scrum teams, basically, right? So if you look at the structure, there are 3 different user stories are being changed at the same time as part of sprint 1. So one order single item, order with quantity discount, and order mixed items. So all these 3 changes go into as part of your sprint 1 of 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and then your team should be ready to perform the integration testing or execute all the relevant regression testing to ensure these changes are really working fine, and also ensure these changes did not break any of the existing mission critical business processes, right? So once your sprint is put in place and you have the next sprint starts with basically uh, it could be a new set of unique user stories or a backlog from the previous sprint, right? Stories are being built on top of each other, and your the automation team is expected to make certain decisions in the sprint time to keep the automation ready and ensure the sprint went through fine, right? So how do we do that? And what are the tools that Worksoft platform has to ensure the acceleration in such a short span of time? So like we discussed in the previous slide about discovery and documentation layer, where analyze and capture helps with the business user directly involve in and creating the business context to the automation, basically capturing the tasks and user stories the way he is intending to be performed, right? And then from that capture, a document gets generated automatically. So key business users does not need to spend too much time on passing their knowledge to the next team, testing team, um, and the business team who are basically heading the whole sprint does not need to worry about too much about communication between different teams involved in the sprint delivery. And Worksoft, being a scriptless and programming free solution, basically quickly helps you locate the existing components available to make an end-to-end. And also you could use the capture to build or accelerate your automation in Certify itself, and to operationalize your execution orchestrator with its API endpoints helps you automatically trigger your executions at predetermined intervals or uh, at a specific trigger points. And let's see what some of our customers are saying with our DevOps journey. And some customers run their business critical processes every night to identify the anomalies early, so hence they could minimize the risk. So here, one of our customer from a mass media vertical, they run the tests on a nightly basis, at least the business critical test. So hence they could identify the critical defects early, so they can minimize the risk of breaking some of the business critical validations, right? So with that, so what we're going to do a look at uh, the DevOps integrations with Worksoft platform. And Worksoft platform itself has a lot of capabilities for you to achieve DevOps culture. So if you want to uh, have your tests automatically executed at predetermined intervals, achieve parallel execution, achieve dependency execution, etc., as part of the platform. However, so in any organization, you may come across a team where they might, ask you to, hey, can you integrate with Jira? So we have all our test reporting and defect monitoring happens in Jira. Could you do that? Right. So we have various points available to integrate with Jira, Microsoft ADO, TeamCity, Atlassian Jenkins, and you could also integrate with project management tools like Panaya, Micro Focus ALM, SAP Solution Manager, CA tools, and etc. So what we're going to be seeing in today's demo is I'm going to be taking Jenkins as a reference DevOps tool, and then we look at how there are how many different ways that we have to achieve DevOps with Worksoft Automation Platform. And similarly, you could use the same approach to integrate with ADO or integrate with Atlassian or Bamboo or any other DevOps tool that your project teams or functional teams might be using as part of their project lifecycle. You could have them integrated as well. So it's potentially, and so we have endless opportunities. So with that, so I'm going to be jumping into my demo environment, multiple ways that we can trigger an execution from a DevOps tool, in this case, Jenkins, right? So when you install Execution Manager, uh, you automatically get, so this is our Execution Manager, right? So from Execution Manager, as you may be knowing already, so you could create a request of multiple processes, and you could basically create the dependencies between the processes, and you can have them scheduled to run in multiple systems in a parallel execution mode, or you could even control all of them to execute in a particular end system, because your some of the software is available only in there. Certain FTP clients or certain mainframe systems or certain Java systems are located only in those systems, right? So you could do that. Everything can be done here, and resources could be configured to um, to achieve the parallel execution, right? And we can do everything. So what we're going to be seeing now is how do we trigger the execution from a different tool like Jenkins. With that, so for Jenkins, so we also have a plugin available in the Jenkins marketplace called Worksoft Execution Manager, which is a codeless plugin. You just basically install it, and it'll give you a very user friendly interface uh, to basically provide your execution manager endpoints. So your tests and your DevOps journey could be started with just a few steps, right? Let me show you that plugin. Right. So I'm going to go into configure in here. So once your Jenkins plugin is installed, so you will see a very user-friendly interface like this. You could either execute a simple execution manager request that you have configured in execution manager, or you could also execute a bookmark. Bookmark is a new feature that we have added as part of our centralized connect, which is called management studio, which is going to be our license manager as well going forward, right? Which is the central component which is going to connect certify, execution manager, analyze, and license monitoring, and and user definitions, etc. Right? So you basically provide your a bookmark. A bookmark is a pointer to one folder or multiple folders in Certify that you want to execute on a daily basis. If you have certain scripts in SuccessFactors and Salesforce and finance system that needs to be executed on a daily basis, you basically create a bookmark pointing to those different folders, and you mention it here. Just save it. Result folders, where do you want to save your results? That's all, right? So Execution Manager plugin helps you to simply maintain this data, and your process is set up in Jenkins. Same way, you could go into Execution Manager request. You just expand all the requests that you have it configured in your Execution Manager will appear, and you choose what do you want to execute. Or you could also choose to execute a specific process in Certify via the database connection as well. If you choose, or if you want to create a build in Jenkins that way, right? So let me jump into Management Studio and show you the feature where we create bookmarks, right? So once you log into Management Studio, you go into Bookmark Administration, and you could create a bookmark for a specific Certify folder or a multiple Certify folder, or you could create a bookmark, just a Certify process. A bookmark, you could visualize it as a list, right? Or HPALM automated tests as well. So let us create a new bookmark in here. Go ahead into Certify folder, and how do I name it? So let's say it's my critical daily process, and I'm going to choose Certified Demo, my database, and functional test. It's going to show me all the folders that I have here. Expand it, and let's say I want to run logistics on a daily basis, and I could choose multiple folders as well as part of this daily execution if you want it, right? So currently I'm going to choose only daily and logistics, and the great benefit out of this is, as an automation engineer, you could add a test to that folder at a later point of time, tomorrow, and all those new tests will also be part of the tomorrow's daily execution as well. So you don't have to come and update your request at an execution manager level or at a bookmark project level. And then click add. So with that, so a bookmark, which is critical daily, is added. So now I could go back into here, and I can basically, so I'll just have to refresh it. This is my Jenkins request built in here, and then, okay, so I might have to go back and come back into the request, plug in bookmark, configure. Okay, yeah, critical daily batch job is ready. Save. And then if you want to build now, so your build is scheduled, so it should be running now, right? So this way you basically, yeah, so it's idle. So let's go back into our execution manager, and let's see whether it has started triggering the test and running now. So okay, so what, okay, completed. Yeah, critical daily is scheduled. It has already triggered. We can go into resources and pick the resources if we want to monitor them, and you can see if the processes have picked up or anything. See, there is a New Mexico server which has got picked up for your execution. You could monitor them, and if you have each of the servers in my demo system has allows 3 parallel logins. That means I could execute 6 different tests at the same time, right? So once my Jenkins test is triggered from here, I could go to the execution manager just to see what's going on, and then I can keep waiting here. This is a very simple job that you create with a plugin, right? So this and you might be thinking this is very simple here. So this may not be the only way where you're required to really implement your Jenkins builds and Jenkins jobs, right? So what we have also done is opening up your execution manager via an API integration points, so that you could integrate your Worksoft certified tests from different tools that you have in your technology stack, right? So this and all the APIs are Swagger enabled, which are basically a standard language agnostic interface. You could, and once you install execution manager, you could also get the whole API platform in here. So, and there are many REST API calls or different gets and puts that helps you trigger an execution, and also helps you get the status of the execution and do the polling request. Once your request is triggered from Jenkins, if you want to keep uh, do the polling whether my what's happening with my request, right? Or if you want your Jenkins code to wait until your execution process is complete, and then you could also use some of the get requests to appropriately make your build failed or passed or certain tolerant levels based on your execution build. So let us quickly see the different APIs that we have in here. So let me quickly go into my Swagger spec and authorize myself so that I get my token available to execute these ones. So let me go in here, click on authorize. It's all okay, very good. So let me see if there are, say, if I want to know the different requests that are currently running, I basically do the tryout and then, tryout. And then execute it. So this is my response. Let me do. So let us do one thing. So let us put a new request, or so not a new request. Let's see if we can execute a bookmark from here, right? So what I'm going to do is scroll down and right. So this is my bookmark execute. So I'm going to be opening it, and so here I'm going to try it out. And what is the bookmark ID and name? So what is the bookmark name? Critical space daily. So I can go in here. So what the one thing that we have seen earlier is executing directly using Jenkins Worksoft plugin that is already available in the marketplace. And the second thing is, if you are happen to be a more DevOps per kind of a person, and where you don't want to use the standard plugin that's already available, and you want to build or create your job in a more custom manner, you could use these APIs and do the build. How do we do that? So let me the second step is executing your bookmarks directly from your Swagger spec. Provide your bookmark name and then go in here, click on execute. Right, now it gets added into the queue, and it will start running there. The third one that we're going to be seeing is, I will show you it. Yeah, so your process is still running. I have 3 or 4 more processes there. It's still running, called Fury, end-to-end order, or order to cash, and SAP only OTC that is part of my logistics processes. So now what we're going to see is look at building a job with a custom API calls using PowerShell code, right? So you could use JavaScript code. You could use any scripting language that you're familiar with to trigger these APIs that are available as part of the Swagger spec, as part of the execution manager layer. So now what I'm going to show you in Jenkins, the third way, right? So the first one is Jenkins plugins, and second one was Swagger spec. And third one is building your jobs in a custom way using PowerShell for example, in here, but you could use any programming language to trigger those APIs, and you could call the multiple APIs as well as part of your big script, which is going to trigger a bookmark, and then keep polling whether your bookmark is being executed currently and what is the status of it, so that you could start building your status report and display the status also the way you want it in the Jenkins console output, which I'm going to show you in just a little bit. So now what I'm going to show you a job where Jenkins PowerShell script. The idea in here is to show you different ways that we could do the execution orchestration from execution manager directly, and also all the different DevOps tools like Azure DevOps or Jenkins or Bamboo, right? Or JetBrains, right? So you could create your parameters globally or locally for the job to connect to your execution manager. And then, so currently I'm using Windows PowerShell plugin in Jenkins to call my nested APIs, right? So I'm basically triggering an execution manager request. Sorry. So I'm basically triggering my bookmark, right? So my bookmark ID is CK bookmark demo. I could replace it in here, say critical daily as well. Just change my bookmark name. And the next steps are calling a couple other APIs to keep the polling or keep the execution active in the console output. Otherwise, if you just execute an API call, as you may know, so once this line of code is executed, and then basically it will say the build is successful. How do you ensure your build in Jenkins is successful if based on the success of your automation, right? How do you connect them basically? So your success of the automation, is it 100%, or your success of the automation has some kind of a tolerance, right? Is it 70% okay, 80% okay, or 90% okay? Or these are my three critical jobs that they must execute successfully without a failure. Only then Jenkins build could be considered as deployable into production, etc. Right? So this is the simple PowerShell code, and it's also available as a template in our support portal. If you want to take it and reuse it and then elaborate it for your needs, you could always do that. Right? There are three ways that we discussed, and the next one, which is quite important, is our results API. So our results are also now opened up as APIs, right? So we have a results swagger as well to fetch the results of your processes, or results meaning a data of your processes, or data of your results via API calls. So you could have to build inside a single Jenkins job. One could be triggering the execution of certify. The next one could be fetching the details of those critical of those execution, and then help you put up a dashboard in the Jenkins, or help you display some important information in the Jenkins report as well, right? So we have different get and post requests for the execution results as well. So this one basically gets you results from a specific folder and results from a specific project with certain filters. You have a lot of optional and mandatory parameters where you can use custom reporting and right, so different ways. So let me go into Jenkins and show you one of our Jenkins a simple pipeline build, and how it basically executes a processes and displays a log in here, where currently this particular log displays the error messages that certify has encountered during the execution, right? So that an advanced user does not really need to open up certify to do a high level analysis. Like in here, if you click on log, and it will display all the error messages um, that are display that certify has come across as part of the execution. It could be window not found, it could be object not found, it could be sales order or a shipment has a credit block, etc., etc. Right? If you're able to do everything, right? So here, this is your JSON response from your execution API, sorry, results API, which you could use to display as part of the logs in here. So if you see it in here, the last reported error, it is a read JSON. Oops. Right. So if you see in here the error messages that you could find in here, as reported error status was it's basically printing a message from the completed script. The status is failed, execution status is failed, which is SAP only OTC process execution status, and result ID is this one, read from workspace, and print the log header, which is 1710. Sorry. So right, and this basically displays certain information here. You could also display all uh, the failed messages that you would see in a certify result file. When it says object not found, you have an error message there, which is interface error message. You could have that message extracted out of these result files in a particular folder and have them displayed in here as well, so that you could know why, what was the reason your scripts failed. Was there some issue with certify regarding test data issue, or regarding the or test identification issue, or is it something related to functionality? Right, so that will help you putting everything in here. And also what I'm going to show you now, a simple dashboard that we have built using these result APIs in our Power BI tool, right? And you could, and some of our customers are using Tableau, and you could also use Excel to an extent if you're able to trigger those REST API calls and build a kind of nice dashboards like this to monitor your development progress and monitor your regression status, and also track and see what's your trends, right? So how is your regression trend this year from month on month? Is it improving? What's going on? What are the different kind of error messages that you come across in a regression job from month to month? Status by day, different processes, right? And process status by name. So what are their success probabilities, right? Failure probabilities based on their historic executions, right? What are the key performance indicators? Status by day. You could basically build different types of reports easily via these result APIs as well, right? So with that, so I'm going to take a pause of this demo. So let's take questions from the participants. Let's see what kind of questions they have. Based on that, we'll proceed further. Yeah, Manish.
Yes, Jeevan. So we have one question from Prasad. So he's saying that I have come across a Jenkins plugin named Worksoft Certified Process Runner, which I'm trying to use to run Worksoft process from Jenkins job, which is failing, and getting an error saying cannot run program certified.exe. So any
Sure.
guidance from you?
Sure. Yeah. So, Prasad, to execute a command line. So one thing is, so you might be using Worksoft's command CLI interfaces command to trigger it from Jenkins. So Jenkins, if you directly execute it, it may not work. because your Jenkins, the way it is installed, the workspace could be in a different directory. So it might be compiling the code, it might be executing it in a D drive or E drive based on its installation. So you might want to check if the workspace is still in the C drive, right? Or you could also try, instead of triggering the complete batch command directly from the PowerShell plugin, you could also try having your .bat files saved in a drive and trigger those batch files as well. Try it, right? And the other question was, if you're using a plugin, try to use Worksoft Execution Manager plugin. And there were like 3 other plugins available that were developed in the past by a partner, which hasn't been maintained later after that. So it was working fine. And basically the maintenance on those I'm not sure whether it's still on, but Worksoft Execution Manager plugin, which is it is available in the marketplace now, you may want to try using that as well.
Jeevan, another question is from Ravi Kumar. So his question is, if we are executing EM request, which has say 10 processes, can we get status of each process in Jenkins console? Now we are only getting the status of the request as a whole.
Right. So when we execute a request directly, we get only the consolidated status of the whole request, right? However, if you want to get a status of each of the individual process inside a consolidated request, then we will have to add another build inside the same job, which can trigger an API call to fetch the results, to fetch the status of these individual results that is stored in a specific result folder in Certify. And with that information, then you could have it displayed there. So currently there is no direct way to fetch the results of each of the individual processes, but it still can be achieved with the APIs.
Okay. So another question is from Divya. Can I still execute certified batch files from Jenkins?
Certified batch files, yes, of course, you can execute it. The challenge that I see with executing a batch file, you could only run one process or 2 processes, and you will, right? So you that may not be too efficient. And also when you or your team really are looking at real DevOps, where your execution to be triggered in multiple VMs, and then make sure those VMs are running fine and they don't get locked or they don't get issue with screensaver, etc. Execution manager is the best option. So I saw some of our customers have tried batch files in the beginning to execute a 1 test or 2 tests or few tests that you're sitting before the system, or when you're in office it might work, but when you really want to look at a big picture and scale up your DevOps journey, so execution manager and these APIs could help you much better there.
Okay. Another question is, are there some details you could share on the ADO integration?
Sure. So with ADO as well, you could have these APIs triggered from the ADO console, and there is a demo that we have done about couple of months ago, which is available on Worksoft's YouTube channel that you may want to check out, and how you could integrate it, right? And also there is an article also posted in the support portal, right? You could refer to the sample code that's available there, and then you could leverage that sample code and then go beyond and see what kind of integration that you want to achieve with ADO. Is it just a triggering an execution? Is it just integrate again Jira there? When an execution is a failure, you basically log a defect automatically, etc. Right? And if you have any of these questions or any questions on DevOps, of course, you can always reach out to us. And the otherwise, you can also write or raise an idea or raise ask the Worksoft community. If you're a certified um, um, Worksoft resource, you could go into Worksoft certified experts portal, and then you could raise your question. Hey, I'm um, trying to achieve my DevOps plan or pipeline this way. Is there anyone could share their thoughts? And you could collaborate with the community force all over the world, uh, right? You can ask, and some of the questions are really complex. The problem that they're trying to solve as part of the community force and the experts portal is really complex, right? Uh, complex in the sense the big, right? So they're trying to solve the problem which is big at an organization level rather than trying to solve a problem at my team level, right? So yeah.
Jeevan, we will just take one more question. Uh, this question is from Nisha. Question is, certify results API fetches data from all the results tables. Is there a way to fetch only limited data?
Right. So these APIs also have several parameters as inputs that could act as filters to fetch you only the necessary results from the big pool.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Jeevan. This was a really insightful information for all of us. Thank you so much once again.